Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of Teaching Thursdays. We got a great topic for you on a subject matter that a lot of people know about but they're not too familiar with, and that's going to be your retirement account. So we're going to jump right into it with what is a retirement account. Now, a retirement account is in essence a savings account that is used as an investment tool to help save for those golden years after you retire.
Thank you for being a friend.
So basically, if you want to have a little pocket change when you're no longer working, you want to be able to pay your bills, take some vacations, be with your family a little bit more, it'll give you that little bit extra bit of money to have some flexibility when you're not working. There's going to be several different types of retirement accounts, but the main ones that people know about are traditional and Roth IRAs, as well as your 401k and 403b. Now, traditional and Roth IRA, and IRA stands for individual retirement account. That basically just means you yourself can put money into those retirement accounts. It's not through your job. And the main difference between traditional and the Roth is that traditional is going to be a pre-tax, but a Roth is going to be post-tax. So you can put money into a traditional IRA before Uncle Sam takes his cut. However, later on, you're going to be taxed on the contribution as well as on any gains that you've made in that account. With a Roth IRA, it's going to be post-tax. So after you've taken money out from your job and you open up a Roth IRA, now that money is already taxed on the contributions. So you're only going to be taxed on any of the gains that you've made, along that time span. And a lot of people end up using Roth IRAs for that reason. They know it's going to be a lighter load at the end of the road. When it comes to your 401k and your 403b, those are usually distributed by your employer. And if you work for a for-profit organization, it's could be some other organizations, you're going to have a 401k. The 403b is specifically reserved for some like government agencies, the public schools, so teachers usually can have those, as well as some nonprofits can participate in 403bs. And the main difference is going to be administrative fees. The 401k usually has a lot more administrative fees, but those are for companies that tend to make a lot more money, have bigger budgets. So these 403bs came along in order for organizations that have smaller budgets, not as much income, they can be able to have a means for retirement for their employees as well. So as the video goes on, we're going to compare how a retirement account is equivalent to a music artist signed to a major record label. But next up, we're going to talk about who owns a retirement account. As we mentioned, with a traditional and a Roth IRA, that's going to be the individual, such as yourself, is going to actually own the account. You'll be able to manage it yourself, or you can actually have someone manage it for you. But then with your 401k and your 403b, which is actually going to be co-owned with your employer, they're usually going to have a company in place to help manage it for you. I know when I worked for Walgreens some years ago, they actually had a 401k stock option program through Fidelity, so they kind of manage people's accounts. And a lot of times when you have your 401k and your 403b, you have to be mindful that if you leave the job on bad terms, if there's like a termination, whatever the case may be, the job will be able to take back whatever amount of money that they have contributed, which we'll get into next. But that's just if worst case scenario. That doesn't always happen, but that may happen. So that's just something to be mindful of. Now, they won't take the money that you've contributed, but any money that they may have contributed to a match program, that they do have the right to take that back. So of course, next up, you want to know, how does a retirement account even work? Basically, a retirement account allows individuals to make contributions up to $5,500 per year or $6,500 per year after the age of 50 into this retirement account. With traditional and Roth IRAs, the individual can manage it, or they can have a brokerage firm manage it for them, which is usually going to come with a fee. Now, that's similar to how a 401k and a 403b works, where your employer is going to have some sort of investment entity manage the fund for you. A beautiful thing about some of these employer retirement packages is that they offer these match programs. So let's say you have a 401k with your employer and they say, we're going to match up to 5% of your paycheck that you contribute. So let's say you make $100 every 2 weeks and you contribute that 5%, which is $5. Well, your job is now going to put $5 in with your $5. So instead of just putting in 5, you're actually going to put in 10. And that's going to make your account even bigger. And a lot of times they have this term called vested, which vested means that after you work for us for so long, we're going to make sure that you can have all of that money. So after 1 year, let's say the company is you're vested for 25%. After you invest that $5, if you leave that job, you can only take that $5 plus another $1.25 from the 5 that they put in. And then the next year is 50%, the next year 75%, the next year 100%. Now that's not to scale, but that's just kind of an example of how it works. Once you're fully vested, you get all of that money that you contributed plus the money that your job contributed. Usually this money is going to be post-tax, but it may be pre-tax. And one thing about some companies do is they also offer profit sharing, which is similar to dividends, where when the company makes money, they just kind of put some profits back into your retirement account to reinvest. So those are several aspects of how a retirement account works. Now, when are you eligible to take advantage of a retirement account? There's pretty much no age limit on it, except you just have to have some form of earned income. Now, parents do have to co-sign for minors under the age of 18, and once they hit their 18th birthday, they can sign it fully over to that person whose the account's name should be in. So that's similar to like co-signing a car. Now, where can you open a retirement account? Pretty much all employers and brokerage firms have retirement account access. You just simply need to talk with your employer or go on to some of these brokerage firms like E-Trade, Fidelity, Vanguard. Check with all of them and see what their process is. Now, we mentioned about how a retirement account is going to be similar to a musician signing with a major label. So let's say you have a musician that signs a deal with a major label, and of course they're going to be under contract. But with a retirement account, you're under contract as well, because once you put that money in, you can't take it out without having a penalty. Now, when you have the artist sign with a contract with a major label, they're going to be subject to having to do so many albums, probably so many shows, so many appearances, etc. Well, with a retirement account, you have a certain limitations to how much money you can invest in the account. Like, that's part of your contract into what you can contribute. Now, after that, of course, the gains are unlimited, but you're still held to these certain stipulations. Now, back to the artist, when that artist has, let's say the artist signed on for 5 albums under a contract, and they've only completed 4 and they want to get out of their deal. Well, because of that, the artist is going to be subject to some kind of litigation, because the company is going to say, hey, you need to complete this album or you're going to owe us money for what the album could have potentially sold for. Well, the same thing is going to go for with a retirement account. If you pull that money out early, which is going to be before the age of 59 and a half, then you're going to be subject to a penalty, because they're saying, hey, you put this in here, like, you agreed to do this with us, and now that you want to get out early, well, you're going to have to pay the piper with that. Now, for our last piece is why are retirement accounts important? Basically, retirement accounts force people to save and invest. Well, since retirement accounts have you contribute money and you can't pull it out without facing a penalty, well, nobody wants to take the money out if they're going to be hit with a penalty on money that's already theirs anyway. So it's going to kind of force you to keep that money in there and keep wanting to progress. It's gonna force you to want to take that extra step. So that's one of the great things about retirement accounts, is that it's going to take what you're doing with your savings account, but you don't have access to it unless you want to be hit with a penalty. Plus, you're trying to grow your money and investing at the same time. So it's going to make you seem kind of like how the ants work. Little by little, they save over and over again. Like, that's in essence how a retirement account is going to work. Thanks for tuning in to this week's Teaching Thursdays for our episode on retirement accounts. We hope it's been helpful to you into understanding what retirement accounts are, what are some of the types, and some of the stipulations that kind of come with it. Retirement accounts are great tools for investing. It's kind of got that slow and steady wins the race, appeal to it. So it's definitely something to look into, and also be mindful that just because you have a retirement account with your employer through whether if it's a 401k or a 403b doesn't mean that you can't have a traditional or a Roth IRA yourself. It's up to you if you want to have multiple accounts.